an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Altered Carbon, Season 1, Episode 1, Out of the Past. In this episode, this show is doing something that I have long wished for, which is basically, what if Doll... Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Renate for commissioning this episode. I hope I am saying your name right. Please let me know in the chat with the pronunciation if I got that wrong. You guys, I'm very excited because I have actually heard a lot about Altered Carbon. Not like about it. I'm not trying to say I've been spoiled because I'm very surprised how little I knew about this going in. I genuinely, the whole thing was like, oh, really? Oh, word? Like over and over again. So I'm just saying that I have had a lot of people say that they thought it was very good, that they wished that I would watch it, that I would cover it, things like that. And whenever I start to get that kind of talk, I genuinely just completely take something off of my to watch list because I figure if I do want to cover it at some point, or if somebody wants to commission it, I want to be fully unspoiled for it. And I'm really excited to finally get to start to talk about this show because what I said in the, oh my God, Michael Kioski is in the chat saying, get ready for some altered car puns. I hate you. I have to boot you, Michael. I'm going to do it. Someday I'm going to do it. But I am a big fan, or I should say, I was a big fan of the show Dollhouse by Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon is just such a creep, it turns out, that even though a part of me has kind of wanted to go back and rewatch it, I just can't quite bear to do it. Also, he had been so involved in so much Marvel properties, so many of them, that the quippy sort of dialogue style really has begun to grate on me later in life. So I also kind of felt like if I go back, I'm not going to enjoy it because I'm going to have this sort of bitch eating crackers attitude about him that is going to really throw gloom over everything. But I remember Dollhouse starting off with this premise of like, what if we could put consciousness into other people's bodies? And eventually, spoilers, the show ends up in a place where it's like jumped into the future and bodies are becoming much more of a commodity gotten by ill means, and the difference between what the poor versus the rich can do, and also the ways in which people can like steal a body that they shouldn't have, things like this are all sort of brought up as questions, but they are never answered. It's sort of like the show ends with this big sweeping, here's what the future looks like in general, and probably somebody should never have invented this technology. And I always wanted to follow that thread further and be like, okay, but really though, what if? And then when I started this episode and I began to realize what was happening, because it took a little while for me to really get it, then I was like, oh my God, I'm getting it. I'm finally getting the thing. And I'm really, really excited about it. I loved this episode. What a first episode. Like, it was so packed with information and it was done in such an elegant way, in my opinion. There's only so many ways that you can like info dump something as kind of complex as this idea without it just feeling like somebody is talking at you. And I thought that they really managed to pull it off, and I didn't feel like I was just listening to a monologue. But let's begin at the beginning because I want to like talk about how I thought things were going before the reveal of exactly how things are happening. So because like I was going into this knowing that we were dealing with some sort of changes to like the way the human body works, but I was sort of wondering if it was going to be a AI or like a Westworld sort of robot build kind of thing. And, for all I know, that does wind up being a thing. But I was kind of coming at it from the wrong direction. So we start off with this dude underwater. He is underwater, and I put water in quotes because it's unclear. He's got a mask over his face, and he seems to be sort of floating in the midst of this water. And this was sort of what was making me go, okay, is this a robot thing? Is this the creation of the body? But the bodies, it seems, are like regular organic human bodies born in a regular human way, mostly. Mostly. So we get this voiceover, and it's a woman saying, first thing you'll learn is that nothing is what it seems. And then we see a man and a woman in a shower, and they are washing a ton of blood off of their bodies. And they are also on the floor of the shower are tons of these little coin things. And we zero in on the back of her neck, and there is a scar. And later on, we eventually find out that is where your stack goes, which is what they call essentially like the motherboard of your entire personality. Um, and the things that are on the ground, it seems, are all stacks of different kinds that they have somehow acquired through means that I have to assume are quite nefarious. And we kind of jump in and out of this scene in the shower and the guy floating in the water. And he is like having sex with this woman, but it didn't feel for me like he was that into it. It was sort of a weird like the way that the woman is portrayed, it's like she's not really that important because we jump to another woman, a black woman, and him having sex with her. And so when we come back into the present with him, it's really giving, I wish you were somebody else. And it felt really sad for me. I was like, does this woman, is she aware that is how he's feeling? Does she care? Because I did sort of get a sense from this that it was just the two of them having just gone through something that was like life threatening and letting off steam by having sex with each other, but not actually being that romantically involved. You know what I'm saying? And later on, he is quite pissed when she gets killed. I don't think she meant nothing to him, but it doesn't, she like, as we see later, she clearly didn't mean to him what this other woman meant to him. So we are then in the hotel room after they have like put on some underwear and they're hanging out. He's smoking some weed, and they are looking through these chips, the stacks, as we find out later. And he just has the vibe to him is extremely detached in a way that feels like somebody who doesn't I'm trying to think of the way to describe this because it's not like I don't believe that he just doesn't care about anything, but it really feels like somebody who is has grown distant from their own life in a way that could go very badly if certain things went in a certain direction. If does that make sense? So and he has this thing around his neck that later on we find out is like part of a tree. Don't know what the deal is with the tree, except that it grows on like one particular planet and is really rare and important. And so whatever this thing is, it's glowing. And then again, the black woman saying, "We are envoys and we take what is offered." And eventually, the term envoys is brought up as being like a totally different type of human being that is evidently not a thing anymore. Allegedly, he is the last one remaining. Who knows if that's true, but they, it seems, have almost taken on like a kind of mythic quality in a way. And so when he sees through the wall later and tries to tell this girl what he sees, I don't know if he knows that she's an on that I don't know if she knows he's an envoy, because when he tells her what he can see, she jokingly says, "Oh, what, you can see through walls now?" Like she doesn't believe him. And I have to assume that this is some sort of ability that envoys have, and she just isn't aware of what he is. Um, so there's like this frame on the wall that has a scene as if they're on the beach at dusk in Hawaii or something, and he goes and touches it and it switches out and we see this very, I mean, there, you can't help but make the comparison to the movie. I can't remember his name. Oh my god, you know the one I'm talking about, the cyberpunk futuristic movie with the robots. I can't, oh my god, you guys, you know what I'm talking about. But I am like very into this aesthetic, even though I know it's kind of done. I could argue that maybe we should do something a little different. I, I just, I like it. I think it's kind of cool. You know, I can't help but just be like, yeah, all right, here we are. And there's two moons as well. Always a fan of like multiple suns, multiple moons. It just adds a little what the fuck factor, reminding us that we are not on Earth, or if we are, some major shit has happened. Um, Blade Runner, thank you, Michael. Ooh, Renata says, "I'm impressed that Natasha clocked the Songspire necklace. I only realized that yesterday." Songspire, thank you. Am I saying your name right? Am I saying it right? Please tell me. Um, okay, so he, like I said, manages to see through the wall. Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to mention that this woman seems to be cleaning the stacks. Like there's still human flesh stuck to them. She says something about bone fragments and how she always gets splinters. So I am assuming these stacks came off of people that they have killed, and that she is having to like manually clean the spine off of them, because they must be lodged into like your spinal cord, is my assumption. And I'm just sort of trying to think like who would want these? Like, is it somebody who is trying to uh just like take people in for questioning, like the police, you know, is this a sort of bounty hunter thing? You don't need the bodies, you just need the stacks, because then you can put them into a new sleeve, is what they call the bodies, and then you can question them that way, so you don't actually need, you know, like bounty hunter is the energy, but I'm not sure that's right. um and yeah, this is when he sees the people through the walls, and they have these wild masks on that have these like red lights. Really, really cool design. Make them look distinctly alien, even though they are just people inside. And they are here in force. They've got explosives, they have got automatic weapons. Like they are here to play. And they managed to take these two down, even though they put up a pretty fucking good fight. There's like the ones at the door initially, there's like a dozen of them, and then we have another group show up a little bit later. So they, whoever these two are, they were taken very seriously as a threat, which I thought was interesting. And we kind of then start to jump between the waking up in the new body and the scene with the Praetorians. Is that the name of the sort of soldier guys? Police? I'm not really sure what to call them. Um, but they, like, you know, the jumping between when this guy is waking up in his new sleeve, I was expecting it to be the same body because I had a sort of idea of what this was going to, how this was going to work. That, like, there were multiple copies of him, that they were stored somewhere, and that he could just jump back into the same sleeve. Like, that he was some sort of experiment or secret agent or something that they had made multiples of, and maybe that he wasn't even fully human, which is certainly still possible that he's not. But I was very puzzled when he, like, demands to see in a mirror, and he, like, has this extremely strong reaction, and then later on I realize he didn't expect to be in this different body. I don't think that he saw this coming. And the way that he, like, wakes up, he is still sort of undergoing the trauma of how he was killed. He's, like, in the middle mentally of that. So he is fighting against the people who are trying to rouse him. Um, they keep calling this coming out of the tank, and he's in this, essentially like a Ziploc freezer bag full of some sort of, like, matrix that keeps the body preserved. Who knows how they got this body, like where it's from. I'm really curious if that is ever going to come up, if somebody's going to recognize the sleeve that he is in and think that he is somebody else. It maybe there was a reason that this person was chosen, be like, we get told later that it was due to the combat skills and whatnot that this person was familiar with, that it was a body with similar abilities to the ones that he had. But there may be more to it even than that. um and so, yeah, he is, like, almost kills one of the guys that has gotten him out of the tank. um and when he, you guys, when he comes out and looks so different, I was really just for a moment like, wait, what? But they do the thing where he looks in the mirror, he sees his original face, and we are getting our clear signaling about what's going on, and he seems truly devastated. I don't know if he the thing is that he is reacting like somebody who really didn't expect to ever be in this position, which I think is surprising considering how much this seems to be sort of du jour, so they say. Um, and the way that he says, like, how long was I out? I don't know how long his stack was in storage. There apparently, you can just go into storage until somebody decides that they want to take you out for whatever reason, which we find out eventually that he's, like, been purchased by somebody, essentially. Um, and that is not the norm, but he is in a peculiar position due to evidently being a terrorist and having absolutely no rights whatsoever. So I just want to mention here, um, y'all, the man in the original scene, who looks like he might be, like, Filipino, perhaps, is so fine, so damn fine. And when he is killed, I immediately was like, ah, damn it. But then we get this guy who is also unbelievably fine. Wow. And he is standing there just all covered in this goo with his, like, fucking cum gutters, which I don't normally go for, but he is making it work. And I really had to take a step back and be like, ooh, I am getting a little bit of female gazy stuff and I am into it. Thank you very much. I am here for it. So I just wanted to say that because damn. Like, there are multiple times in this episode where he is talking to somebody and I'm like, I just want to bite his neck. Look at the neck. Look at it. Do you see that? Like, it was distracting. I had to genuinely stop, rewind, because, like, fucking, like, my whole mind went off in a direction and it was not conducive. But I will say, our original character, who was also very fine, we're getting lots of flashbacks of him. So I'm still getting the little tasty morsels of that as well. And I am very delighted to be catered to. So this is delightful. Um, Candace is in the chat. Candace says, all his sleeves are hot as fuck. He is burdened with visual success. Yo, this dude is like, he's kind of giving me like a Michael Fassbender energy. And I didn't realize how much this type worked for me. This is like kind of a revelation. Um, so anyway, yeah, this dude, Jesus Christ. He eventually just goes and showers, and then we get our intro up to this universe from this weird woman who is a hologram explaining the way that stacks work, getting put into sleeves, the fact that like the people here didn't choose the sleeves that they wound up in, the kinds of like weird mental fogs that you can end up in because you are so disoriented. And there's a girl that is 7 years old, but she's in a body of a woman who looks like she's probably like 55. And I love that he offers her a cigarette because he doesn't realize that she is so little. And the girl like curls her lip. Make no mistake, the sleeve that she is in, that bitch was a smoker. Like, for sure. Heavy smoker. But this is a 7-year-old girl who was like, ew, no. So anyway, this whole thing, I once I got this and I realized, oh, he didn't choose this, he didn't know this was coming. Yikes. And they all have these things implanted, the stacks, when they are a year old. And what's on the stacks are called DHF, Digital Human Freight. Your consciousness can be downloaded into any stack in any sleeve. You can even needle cast in minutes to a sleeve anywhere in the settled worlds. What? That's banana pants. Excuse me? Now we find out later there's a whole lot of things that you can do if you have the money. This is operating very much on the same capitalistic principles as medicine today, where sure, there are drugs that can enable you to live a long and healthy life, even with HIV, if you can afford it. Good luck. So this whole thing is just wild. But if your stack is destroyed, you die. There's no coming back from real death. So avoid blunt force trauma to the base of the brain and energy weapons fired at the head. And I love the way she gestures like she's a stewardess on an airplane, just being like, this is the way that you go to exit. Again, we're getting the flashbacks, and he tries to save this woman. It seems like they're doing okay, but then a whole other group of these Praetorians show up, and he just winds up getting absolutely Swiss cheesed. Um, so yeah, he is being taken out of this like sort of orientation that all the other people are going through, and he is being brought to someone who tells him his circumstances are very different and the situation for him is going to be an exception. It's really, really clear this dude was up to some shit that the government did not like. They call him a terrorist. I assume mostly if a government functions this way and they call you a terrorist, there's a good chance that you probably were doing something worthwhile. I don't like to just say across the board that you are a good guy, but there is a point where I'm just sort of like, yeah, I don't really trust your judgment on this one. So, and he is being given to Lorne Bancroft. I think his first name is Lorne. It says, you are the property of Lawrence Bancroft. Lawrence. It says, which is like it's like a pluralization of a feminine name, which makes it a do. Is it French? Perhaps? Maybe that's what it is. Um, and yeah, this is when he says property, what about my rights? And this guy is like, yeah, you don't have any. You have done a lot of shady shit. And if you don't comply with this, you will be desleeved and brought back here to serve out the rest of your term, which does not appear to have an end date. Yikes. He says, you're going to screw up, do something violent, hurt someone, kill someone. I know people like you. And he says, there aren't any people like me. And I believe him, for the record, on many levels, actually. Um, so this is when he goes out into that room where people are being like met with family, and that girl, we find out, being 7 years old, was put into whatever sleeve was available, which is this woman who is older than her parents. She was killed in a hit and run, and so they can save her consciousness, but they don't give a shit about like the health or longevity of her life in this sleeve, which I assume kind of makes sense because you can just get a new sleeve, but also it's clear that is out of many people's reach. Um, so, yes. Michael is talking about rich people collecting pogs. Renata says, Lauren says he's from London originally, but I have also never heard that name. Shout out to Mark Antony from Rome, also fine. He is one that I don't find fine. His energy is really giving, but I just have never really gone for his looks. However, he's the kind of like attractive that I'm like, I get it. It's just not for me, you know? But he is often cast in a role of somebody who has like real authority and is giving like dominant in a way that I'm like, what's up? So I'm like a little bit there, but just not fully. So this scene of people being reunited with family in different bodies, it's so unnerving because it's obvious that everyone in here is aware whoever they're going to be face to face with isn't going to look like what they used to. So they're like trying to prepare themselves, but also how do you like prepare yourself for this? You know, this is such a weird circumstance. Um, and he gets picked up by a woman who is allegedly his ride. And it turns out she isn't really. She just wanted to find out what the fuck was up with this dude because something here smells fishy and she wants to know about it. Eventually, come to find out that the murder he is being hired to solve was one that she investigated and never came to any conclusion that was satisfactory. Um, and we find out also when he says, regarding the sleeves, they don't do that where I come from. She says, and where would that be? And she asks, where would that be? And then we get cut off and we don't get an answer to this. But I really, really want to know where he's from, that this is a whole new world for him. This is making it make sense why he reacted the way he did when he woke up in a new body, because he's from somewhere that you don't just shove a person's consciousness into a new sleeve, and being captured and having this done to him is really feeling like a violation. So this is when we come across something very interesting, which is the protesters outside, the neo-Catholics, I think is how they call them. And these people are very, very against the resleeving. They don't like it. I'm not sure if they even have stacks. I think they are required to. From what I understand, the stacks is just something that is done. But because of their religious objections, there are certain things that can't be done with their stacks after they die because of their objections. So like if somebody is murdered and you still have their stack, you can get them in a new sleeve and be like, so what happened? And they could just tell you. But if you are a neo-Catholic, you don't want to be resleeved. You think that's like you're basically going to hell if somebody does that to your spirit. So you have to get your murder investigated in like the normal way, which is, I'm sure, so frustrating to cops when you could just pop in a little data disk and be like, so tell me what happened normally. And then there are some outliers who are just like, no, 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 police work, please. I'm sure they are just like, oh, fuck you guys. Come on. But yeah, I just think that this makes a lot of sense because this is a huge question. You're gonna put my consciousness on a little fucking thumb drive and pop it in wherever? I don't think so. Like, I completely understand people being not on board with this, especially considering the like economic limitations that are in place here with this social hierarchy going on. Evidently, he just, because he's a terrorist, just got purchased like a piece of furniture. Uh, no, I don't like any of it either. I don't know that I would call myself a neo Catholic exactly, but I would certainly have my reservations about this. On the other hand, if I had the money to just be dropped into a body that looked like Megan Thee Stallion, I cannot say I wouldn't be scraping together the money to accomplish that. Like, let's be very real about it. So, you know, pluses and minuses. Um, but yeah, they are really coming at him, despite the fact that he had no choice in being re-sleeved. They are behaving as if he signed up for this and he is not only going to hell, but just like the fact that he is out here walking around is almost demonic. Which I guess. Um, so she's driving him to his new place. We eventually find out that she is a cop. But she's asking him what his deal was. Um, so he says blew up some shit and killed some people. And he says some people just need killing. And she says, how do you determine who deserves to die? And he says, depends on the day. I mean, anything can set me off. Interstellar dictatorship, genocide, people who talk too much. Honestly, the energy that he is giving here, I'm into it. He's like quippy, but not overly so. There is a gravity to it that really feels like this is somebody who is angry and who has been through some shit and is just sort of going through the motions to see what happens, but does not intend to be around. You know, it felt very appropriate here once we find out what's happening. Um, and he says, right now I'm feeling pretty hostile to Lawrence Bancroft, whoever the fuck he is. And she says, everyone knows him. He's one of the first founding meths. And he says, what's a meth? And she says, you don't know what's a meth? How can you not know? You're dressed like one. And I'm like, bitch, he just came out of the tank. Allegedly, you guys all know what that means. You should be aware that there's fucking memory issues and shit. So, you're dressed like one. You think he picked this outfit? They gave him clothes. He didn't pick the sleeve. How is he going to pick the outfit? What are you even talking about? Use your head, lady. Not really getting a lot of perks from me in terms of her capacity for detective work. Don't feel like that was great. Um, and let's see. She says, and the days of Methuselah were 969 years, quote from the Bible, and then says that Lawrence Bancroft is over 360 years old. So essentially, if you're rich enough, you can be immortal, which, you know, a lot of the drawbacks to being immortal, I feel, are pretty much null if you can just switch up bodies whenever you feel like. Um, so they come out above the cloud cover, and this is obviously like he has never seen anything like this. It's the first time that we really get an expression on his face of just like, holy shit. He's looking around going, what is this? And she says, we call it the Arium. And it's just like 3 or 4 spires that are above the clouds. And it's even as she's trying to act as if this stuff doesn't impress her, it really gives the impression that's a lie. You know, like it still does. So they close in on the one spire that's got a much more organic look than the others, almost like bone. And she says, where were you born? Your home planet? And he just says, not here. And eventually it's just you ask a lot of questions. And once he finds out she wasn't his intended ride, he realizes, oh, okay, that was a fucking interrogation. This all makes a lot more sense. Um, but yeah, she's trying to play it off like she's just making conversation like a cab driver. And it's very clear that is not what's going on here. So they pull up to the top of the spire, and drenched in sunlight is this gorgeous park with a cathedral like building at the back. It really looks like the spot on the top of that skyscraper in Manhattan that John Wick always goes to when he has to like make a deal with the heads of table from New York. I don't remember what that spot is called, but I have seen it used in a lot of movies and for like really high roller dinners, special events kind of things and weddings. So it just is very reminiscent of that, except larger because they have like full size trees and whatnot here. And obviously, we have reached a place on planet Earth where greenery is like a premium item, which is still quite true in the present in the city. You know, if you have outdoor space in a city, you've got money. That's just how that works. And we get a lot of close-ups of various statues like that are clearly they would have been valuable even today. And when we eventually talk to the woman of the house, she's definitely like just one of those whites who likes to take things from other cultures because they speak to her on a spiritual level and doesn't give a shit about the actual people affected because she is a colonizer. And of course, they have to be because they are money. They have so much money, it's almost like unmeasurable, it seems. And when they land, they like crash land, by the way. This is not a smooth landing, but she he tells her, "My name is Takeshi Kovacs, look me up." And when she does, she's got this little screen in her eye. So it's like she's able to just pull up a little iPhone display right in her body, which again, on the one hand, super convenient. On the other hand, ew, oh my God, nightmare. And she says, "Well, you can't be who you say you are. All the envoys died." And he says, "All except one." And then we have Curtis, who is house security, telling the detective, Lieutenant Ortega, to back the fuck off because she stole their limo to pick him up. Amazing. I do really enjoy the fact that she did that. Like, she didn't just get her car. She stole the lovely. I mean, it makes sense that she wouldn't be able to pull up to this house without having an authorized vehicle. So this woman that greets her, I can't remember what they say her name is. She is wearing this sort of like drapey toga-ish sort of white silk. And she is very Karen. Just threatens to call the cops until actual cops pull up and they have her son who was drunk driving. She accuses the police of harassment. This kid is clearly a little shit. She is a big shit. Hate them all. Her face, guys, I don't know what it is, but I keep thinking she's Madonna for a moment. It's like she's flipping around in my vision depending on the angle. But mostly she's giving Madonna, except like much better preserved. Madonna has had enough work done that she's crossed over into looking genuinely a little freakish, and this lady is just shy of that. Um, but yeah, this whole like vibe, she is the kind of rich you really hate, just out of the gate. Um, so we have him being brought inside and the tree that apparently cost like as she puts it, several fortunes to be brought here. It's the only one on the planet. Um, but cost was no object. This is the only songspire tree on Earth. No one really knows what they are. They could have functioned as part of elder civilization architecture. The largest ones ever recorded are thousands of meters high. And he says, I know, I've seen them. And all of a sudden she's like, oh, right. I forgot. And there are tons of these little, like, um, what do you call them? Like sort of pods hanging off the tree that are glowing. And my thought was sort of like the tree functions as a stack, like each of the pods, maybe. Like that's an alternate place to keep your consciousness that isn't the stack that they can grab and control. But I have zero evidence for that except for the sparkly blue light inside. That's literally it. That's my only evidence. So that's just a wild guess. Um, so this is when he gets brought up. I love when she's in the elevator with him and she's giving him this look and she says, is it true that envoys can read minds? And he says no. And she says, what a pity. This bitch had filth in her mind, and I am not mad about it. Same, sister. Absolutely. Good God. Um, yeah. I really like, if you have, I don't know if she's as old as her husband, who's like 360 something, but if you've lived that long, you've got to have loosened up around your monogamy, right? Like, if he was game, could she just be like, stop by my room on the way out? You know, you don't need to hurry off. Anyway, so this is when we find out that he has been brought in to solve Lawrence's murder. And he has a setup for his stack that is apparently so rare that it's almost like a legend, where his stack is backed up every 48 hours on a military grade satellite that circles the planet. So somebody knew and killed him early enough before his next backup that he has no memory of who it was that killed him. And the only like thoughts, because of I think the type of weapon they used, was that it had to either be a suicide or his wife did it. Ortega later on mentions that his wife offered to undergo a lie detector test. And I have to assume in this universe, lie detector tests are way more effective and reliable than they are in our world, because in our world, lie detector tests are kind of nonsense. But it feels very much to me like he is certain it wasn't suicide, and his wife is backing up that it wasn't her either. I don't, I like, no ideas. I don't have any theories on this really. Um, but the interesting thing is that he has this journal that is written by somebody. I'm trying to find the spot where he mentions, because I feel like their name was like Falconer, something like that. Um, he hands him this journal and says, this might interest you. And it's apparently really rare these days for there to be actual paper books. So he's leafing through this and has a very sort of shaken expression. And he recognizes this for sure. Um, and there's drawings of that tree in there. And he says, I bought it at auction. Supposedly, it is written by Falconer in her own hand. And this leads me to believe the black woman that he is hung up on is Falconer, the leader of some movement of some kind. I don't know. And Kovacs says, all right, get to the fucking point. This is when we find out about the murder and they talk about the backing up. We jump over to Ortega, who is talking with the curly haired bearded cop who brought their drunk son back. He was apparently supposed to pick up Kovacs. The two of them are commiserating over how weird it is that they have basically got, like, as she called him earlier, a pet terrorist. And she's trying to reason out what the fuck they could want with him. And she is angry. It's like as it goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer that overall, for her, the sense that they are allowed to do this is fucked up. And this guy says to her, whoever he is, there's nothing to be afraid of. And I was like, sir, can you please read the situation? Does she seem afraid to you? Is that what you're getting off of this? And I was so glad that immediately she's like, afraid? What? What are you talking about? I was like, thank you, because you're supposed to be somebody who can read body language. It's supposed to be part of your job, and you're not doing it. Okay. So, yeah. Um, so eventually, after this, like, uh, him being given the lowdown on the murder and the backup hard drive, essentially, he is given the option to solve this murder, and if he succeeds, he will be given a full pardon and whatever sleeve he wants, and tons of money, and just basically, like, you'll be allowed to go and dance off into the sunset and live your lovely life and in whatever body you like, and all will be forgiven and forgotten, which the other option is to just be put into a dark cell of like consciousness and locked away somewhere until the end of time, which is pretty grim, but he seems unafraid of that, frankly. Um, so he turns down the offer, but Bancroft says, take the day and live your life. Remember what it is like to be alive. And then tell me whether or not you really want to turn this down. So he goes out into the city. There is a brief moment where he has some flashbacks to playing with his sister on whatever planet they were on. And the sister turns up, obviously, not real. This actress is from Dollhouse. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that feels on purpose. And there's somebody else from Dollhouse as well in the cast just in this first episode. And I just feel like that is a little bit of a like, haha, this is Dollhouse. We're acknowledging it. Like, not really, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it just felt just just a little yummy Easter egg for me. Um, so I love when he first like comes across this kid who's selling all these drugs, and I thought that he was just gonna be like, "Nah, I'm good," and instead he's like, "Yeah, give me all of them, give it, yeah, I'll take them," and he just gets himself fucked right up, and then it begins to wander down the street through the equivalent nowadays of clicking on a BuzzFeed article where it is nothing but fucking pop-ups that are unavoidable. Some of them that just like you have to let them reach the end or else you can't like click out of them or fast forward them. It is a nightmare. It is so much. And eventually, what is her name? Is it Gonzalez? Ooh, I feel like it's Gonzalez, but it's a G Hispanic name. But she comes up behind him, pops him in the back of the neck. It all goes away, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And she says that it's a like broadcast inhibitor. Basically, she downloaded like an anti pop up extension for his Chrome tabs. Ortega, thank you, Candace. So you guys, this whole thing was so wild. Like the idea that they can just project their ads directly into your mind and you can't undo it unless you have the right equipment. What a complete nightmare. Oh my God. All of these different whorehouses that are getting, um, what do you call it? That are, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be sort of a result of him using the drugs as well or not. But regardless, one of the ones that I noticed as being particularly like the camera and the music changed in such a way as I was like, that feels like it's going to end up being significant. But yeah, it is the Raven. And he does wind up going back there. Um, so when Ortega catches up with him, they have a little chat at the bar. He basically is like, yo, I don't know if you know, but when you come out of the tank, you can fuck for a while and not get tired. So if you're interested, and she turns him down, and I was like, girl, why? Literally, just go ahead. Like, please, just for me, go ahead, please. Thank you. So disappointing. And she talks about like different names that he was known by. Mumbalev, one hand rending, the ice pick. And he says, oh, yeah, I like that. You should call me the ice pick. And he then asks her basically, like, why do you even care what happened to Bancroft? And she says, he wanted me reprimanded when I couldn't find his killer, tried to screw with my career, which means with my life, and he's still fucking doing it. I polygraphed the wife at her own insistence. She passed without a twitch. We chased down every lead, friends, enemies, people with opportunity and motive, and we always came back to the same thing. Lawrence Bancroft locked himself in his study and blew his stack out. And he's like, yeah, but he knew he would be resleeved, so why bother? Why would he? And good point. And she mentions all of the other things they dealt with that night, the murders, stabbings, shootings, one sleeve kill. A neo Catholic dumped in the bay. Since she can't be resleeved, she was actually murdered, as opposed to Bancroft, who was incompetently murdered. There is no Bancroft case. Meanwhile, we have got all of these sort of AI strippers going on, and there's a woman that comes up to him with these weird eyes that when she realizes she's not his type, she then says, I can be anything you want to be. And she goes from like a blonde Caucasian to, I think, maybe an Asian woman. Unclear. But I wasn't sure if it's supposed to be that like all of this is AI, like she's just a program or an illusion, or if it's supposed to be that there is some sort of like programming built into his eyes with the way that they can see screens that she can affect and make herself look like something else. I'm very curious like what it is and how this works, because I feel like if you can make yourself look like anything, that's pretty dangerous. You know, being resleeved is already kind of a lot. But if you can accomplish this, that's a very dramatic way to be able to be anybody at any time. What about it? What are we doing with this? That's mm, dangerous. Uh, so he gets up finally, and he's just like, "All right, fine. You don't want to fuck. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find a whorehouse." And she says something about like nobody goes to the AI ones anymore, but he does. He goes right to the Raven Hotel, and it's really fun the way that like the graphics are done for these, because it's clearly like kind of meant to be sort of outdated effects, you know, where there's a raven sitting on a branch and it moves its wings, but it's a bit janky, and it's just really feeling like if you played a video game from like 2010, you know, where the tech was there to a degree, but there's just it's come such a way that you're like, ooh, this is pretty rough actually. Um and he goes inside, and it is a very fun sort of energy in here. So the dude at the desk is also an AI, and it's like the guy that you go to sell your stuff to in a video game that apparently just has sort of his built-in dialogue, but he is meant to sort of find out what it is that his clients are looking for. And he has this very particular look because they're kind of going for like a, I want to say like a 1920s aesthetic here, maybe even earlier. And so he's got like the sideburns and the three-piece suit with like an ascot. Yeah, it's got to be earlier because by the 20s they had electricity and a lot of this is like candlelight and lanterns and stuff. So I'm going to put like turn of the century. Um and there's a fun like stutter to his face every now and then that I couldn't tell if that was like an effect that they put on him or if that was the actor or what. But it's very very slight, but it felt for me like kind of significant. Um and he's like trying to show off all of the different options they have if he is looking for a sex worker. And there's something about uh guys, remind me what our main character's name is again. Um because Takeshi, right? Takeshi, ooh, I can't remember the last name. But he doesn't seem to like, even though he really apparently wants to fuck, like that's definitely on the agenda. When he's being told what his options are, he seems quite impatient. Like, just fucking get to the point. And I was like, really? I thought that you would be more interested in knowing what's out there and taking a look at a menu. I don't know. Um, so eventually this this AI says, from the sky above, there is always the mud below. I could guide you for some elemental and fast satisfaction in Licktown. Licktown? Excuse me? What does that mean? The mud below. I don't care for any of this. So eventually he says, just have somebody sent to my room. And again, it's clear he just picks somebody. But this guy is like, no, 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 but what do you want? Tell me your preferences. And he says, nonverbal. I know of one particular lady of the night who seems a demure clerical worker, but who carries in her, let's see, what is it? Carries in her briefcase instruments of such delight it will tickle your bones. And he literally just says, I'll take it in like a shut the fuck up, will you kind of tone. Not, oh, perfect, that's what I want. It's just so very much, oh my God, fine. Like, this cracked me up so bad. Like, sir, it's your last night as a person, allegedly. We know now that it is not, but that's what he's planning. Enjoy yourself. Why are you being like this right now? Excuse me. So he says, how many might you intend to pay for your stay? DNA trace, he says. DNA trace. Excuse me? What is Bank of the Nation? It's like the implications are too much, kids. Don't like it. Don't like any of it. So then finally, dude with a Russian accent says he won't be needing a room. And here comes the other actor from Dollhouse. He played a good guy on Dollhouse, sort of, mostly questionable. And I am very excited to see him here as a bad guy because honestly, he does not have the face of a hero for me. He always, even when he was smiling and supposed to be happy in Dollhouse, there was a sort of sneering quality to his mouth and nose that made me feel like he always kind of had a sinister energy to him. So I'm very happy that he's up in this as a baddie. Couple scars on his face. And we do eventually find out that he has more than one body. He's got like a backup, which is illegal. Um, and he is just coming in very hot with the whole, you're an envoy. Yo, we're supposed to have like sixth senses, and yet here I am with a gun to you. You're pathetic. This is a joke. And it really feels for me like we knew he was here. Like, not we, not you and I, but oh, Kovacs. Thank you, Candace. Um, and Kovac. Okay. Uh, he he went here purposefully for this reason, I'm assuming. Because so I'm not totally sure about this, but basically what transpires is not, he doesn't actually kill anybody. The hotel does all of it. So he doesn't have, like, he's not going to be held responsible, is my assumption. But I may be wrong about this. I don't know. Anyway, so I love this guy at the front desk. He tells him, we're in the middle of a conversation, Wayfarer is what he calls him. And this dude says, my microwave is smarter than you. So Kovac says to the front desk man, I'd like one thing to go right today. Front desk man says, clearly, with a look of understanding that I wasn't getting at the time. Kovac turns around and, y'all, the way this man carries himself should be a warning. Our Russian guy here is like, you're not that big. And I'm like, it's not the big dude, it's the vibe. This man is completely relaxed and focused and unafraid of you. You should be worried about it. Why are you so stupid? This fool. So anyway, he's got like 5 other guys with him. And one of them like make some sort of comment. He says, they made me bring all this back up. What a waste of my time. I don't need them. And some guy says, fuck you, Demi. And he just fucking shoots that guy in the head, which I realized afterward, it's probably not as dramatic a thing to do if you've got backup bodies. It's probably just like super inconvenient, you know? But likely this dude has also got another body around, probably. I don't know. Maybe not. But maybe that it's just when getting your stack, well, is a shot to the head, does that properly kill you? I feel like I remember our flight attendant lady saying that. Did that actually murder him? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You guys help me out with that. Anyway, okay. Um, and yeah, he turns around and just anyone else. And I have to say again, you guys, I didn't buy him as a hero, but our dude here in his like black wool winter coat, turning around saying anyone else, I was like, ooh, you fine too. We got too many fine men in this show. Kovac says he had it coming. He was rude. So, as this man continues to sort of mock him, he even has to make a comment about the fact that he came to a fucking AI hotel. Nobody does this anymore. The place gets too possessive. Basically, it's so intent on pleasing you that it becomes like a crazy girlfriend and it's like a stalker. And he says in response, really, I hadn't heard that. But he has heard that, and I'm not sure how he knew the extent of it, but evidently he is aware. And so our man behind the counter says, for guest amenities, please touch the screen. And so basically, what Kovac does is he lets himself get beaten toward the counter because Demi is just kicking and punching, and every one of them is driving our guy toward the counter. And he is giving him a countdown, 50 seconds to touch and get the amenity. And so he is making his way over there and eventually he touches it. It's such a great moment, you guys. I loved this so much because apparently nobody was prepared for this. I don't know if they knew the extent of how this worked, but let's see. Demi says, fight, God damn it. And then Kovac says, people like you are still stupid. And he licks his hand and he touches the screen. And the attendant says, I can now provide full guest amenities. And we've got literal machine guns coming out of the ceiling. These dudes over here, there's actually a woman in the mix as well, are looking around like, wait, excuse me? Dimmy, it's like at the moment that he realizes it's already too late. And guy behind the counter has what I believe is a shotgun. And he seems so gratified to be able to do this. Like, he may be AI, but he clearly took offense to the way that he was spoken to. He does not appreciate it. It was rude and unnecessary. And Kovac, he kicks Dimmy away. And it's like evidently in an effort to keep him alive. He wants to ask him who the fuck sent you. And our overzealous attendant doesn't really understand the objective here, and so does kill Demi after all. And of course, after he kills him, says, "Let's see your microwave do that," and he calls him a miscreant. Delightful. Miscreant. I it's just fun. I mean, it's just he's like kind of in a video game, but not like this is all real. But also, since they have backup bodies, it's kind of not like it's just a weird circumstance. Ask this of your microwave, miscreant. That's what he says. And then when he turns and he sees the expression on Kovac's face, he realizes he fucked up and he just goes, "Apologies." Your room beckons if you'd like to freshen up before the constabulary arrives. Oh my god. So yeah, Ortega shows up and just looks around like, "Are you fucking for real?" And Kovac is like, "Yeah, dude. There is clearly something up because these people obviously don't want me investigating this murder. That's what's going on. They knew me. I don't know who the fuck they are, but they called me by name. This sleeve is registered to Dmitry Cadman. Let's see, where is it that you said? Ulan Bator Registry. I do not know what this is." And they're like psyched. She says, uh, he's a hitman and he is known as Dimmy the Twin, does a lot of work for the Yakuza. He doesn't trust anyone, so he makes an illegal copy of himself and downloads it into a black market sleeve. It's called double sleeving. The penalty is real death. And she's going into his spine and she says, "We hold on to his stack. Sooner or later, we catch the other version of him out there and then he's done." And she pulls the stack out of his spine and then says, "Motherfucker, it's fragged." So I guess he's got another like stack out there, I'm assuming, as well as another sleeve. But yeah, they can't, it says not enough left to spin him up to interrogate. And spin up is the term that they use when it's just like questioning. And I'm not sure if the spin is sort of the hologram thing that we saw earlier or what. Um, Sorry. Michael says he can probably come back as long as his stack wasn't damaged. He'll just have to go through the accounts receivable department. Michael, oh my God, I just saw how earlier you said iPhone with EIY or EYE phone because of the screen in her eye. I truly hate you guys. Stop it. Stop it. Um, and when Ortega asks the attendant, the AI guy, "What the fuck were you doing?" He says, "I was coming to the defense of my first guest in 5 decades." Damn! Really? 50 years this place is open and there's been not a soul? That is grim. Wow. He says he's fully licensed for customer protection, and in any case, his attackers were remarkably rude. Ortega's partner says to her, "You've shot people for less." And she's like, "So what?" I love the fact she doesn't argue. She's just like, "Yes, I did." That's irrelevant. But yeah, this as I'm coming to the end of my time, I have to jump ahead a little bit, but he has this moment where he is sitting by himself and is visited by the woman that he is still clearly very hung up on. And she is telling him that you need to fucking move on and move on, like, continue living. And it's been 250 years. Her name is Quell, I think. But he says, never. You hear me? And then do what you were born to do, what I trained you to do, make things change. And he says, by saving a meth, which, evidently he knows what a meth is, I guess. I still don't feel like I know what a meth is. Maybe I'm wrong. Is it meth? Oh, wait, is that the Methuselah? Like people who are over so many years old? Maybe that's what it is? Did I miss that? Is that what the connection was supposed to be? Um, and she says it's not the threat, it's the unanswered question, the mystery that needs to be solved, the box that needs to be unlocked. In Envoys, take what is offered, Tak. Take this chance. This is how you finish the mission. And that's sort of like the last thing is finish the mission, and he seems to really take that to heart because he goes back to Monsieur Bancroft and he takes the job. He's like, all right, let's do this. And I'm into it. I'm very excited. I'm hoping that we have a lot more of him with no shirt on. We do have him getting a tattoo, which is a very dope looking sort of laser thing that they're using. And just, I am sure that he'll be in a new body at some point. But I will say right now, I'm going to miss this one. I really will. So yeah, that's it. I'm over time. I knew I would be. I knew I was going to be over time. Okay. They call the meths for Methuselah. Okay. I'm glad I finally made that connection because y'all, I really didn't at first. All right. Yeah. I'm into this world. Let's do this, kids. I'm here for it. All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And I hope folks listening are enjoying the coverage. I will be seeing you again soon. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.